Talk, shop, pop, movies.
Oh, hey there, this is Derek, the Convicted Cinephile, and if you're a convicted cinephile yourself, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel down below. On my channel, I like to talk, shop, and pop open, that is, movies and physical media, and today will be yet another random Oscar facts video, whatever you want to call it. Oscarology. Yes, nerds say that, at least nerds like me, based on 94 years of stats and coincidences. The two strongest categories that correlate with Best Picture have always been Best Director and Best Screenplay, which is why the combination of the two should win you a Best Picture Oscar, am I right? See that first video I did a few days ago. But anyways, this one is about separating the two. A movie that is able to win Best Picture without either or a Best Director or Best Writing nomination. So I'm going to go over the 7 films that won Best Picture without a Best Screenplay nomination and the 6 films that won Best Picture without a Best Director nomination. Surprisingly, well, maybe not so much anymore if you've been watching my other videos, but there is some overlap between the two. P.S. Don't mind my hat hair. It's like a blizzard going on here in Minnesota right now. But anyways, the first category we'll be looking into is the screenplay category. So like I said, there are 7 Best Picture winners that did not get nominated for Best Original or Adapted Screenplay, or in the old days, Best Story. They had a lot of weird specific writing categories. That's another video I should do, is all the weird categories that the Oscars used to do that they no longer do. But in chronological order, here we go. Back at the first Oscars is where we begin. Yet again, the 1927/28 Academy Awards. Don't ask me why they did that, but that's what they did for a few years. The Best Picture winner was Wings, and no, it was not nominated for Best Writing in any of the categories, whether screenplay or story, or screenplay based on a story, or writing based on a adapt. You know, they had, like I said, weird categories. Anyways, no writing nomination for Wings. Number 2 is the next year, 1928/29, The Broadway Melody was not nominated for writing in any category. And then yet again, you see a pattern here. A lot of old stuff with weird categories and very few categories on top of that. 1931/32, we had Grand Hotel, the movie that, you know, is famous for winning Best Picture and only being nominated for Best Picture. Yet again, the year after that, 1932/33, we have Cavalcade winning Best Picture with no writing nomination whatsoever. Then we had a little bit of a break up until 1948, where Hamlet, like I said in my last video, won Best Picture with no screenplay nomination at all. Because they hate Shakespeare at the Oscars, apparently, unless you're Shakespeare in love. Yet again, that's a topic for another video. The final 2 are the ones that actually sort of surprise me. You have 1965's Best Picture winning musical epic. Musicals in general just aren't great screenplay winners, but they often get nominated, like West Side Story. I said before, it won 10 Oscars out of its 11 nominations. The one it didn't win was screenplay, but at least it was nominated. This movie, which won Best Picture in 1965, Sound of Music. A great movie. I like Sound of Music a lot. It's really, really good. My kid likes it too, so you know that's a plus. Was not nominated for its writing. Like I said, musicals are often shoved to the side as far as screenplays go. And the most recent winner of Best Picture not to be nominated for writing, which, when you think about it, kind of makes sense, was James Cameron's epic Titanic back in 1997. You gotta love James Cameron, but the writing is never his strongest suit in any of his films, at least outside of the Terminator franchise, I would say. Avatar, just like it, was not nominated for screenplay either. So those are the 7 films that won Best Picture without a writing nomination. Now let's go on to movies that won Best Picture with no directing nomination. Like I said, it's very important, ever so slightly more important than writing, apparently. At least it used to be. Not so much anymore. There are 6 films that won Best Picture without being nominated for directing, and like I said, there'd be some overlap. I'll just bang these 2 out quick. 1927/28, Wings, again, 1931 to 32, Grand Hotel. Obviously, if it only was nominated for Best Picture, it couldn't have been nominated for Best Director either, am I right? There you go. So those two, damn near back-to-back, overlapping things that won Best Picture that probably shouldn't have. Hence my first video. Then there was a whopping 67 years that went by until we had another movie win Best Picture that was not nominated for Best Directing, and that was 1989's Driving Miss Daisy. Driving Miss Daisy was not nominated for Best Director, which, having seen the movie for the first time a couple years ago, I completely understand. It's a very straightforward, uninteresting film as far as a directing standpoint. It's a nice story with good acting, and, that's why it won, and that's why it won for those things. But a directing feat, not at all. So I get the snub. And then we had another good chunk of years go by, and then we had three fairly recent that happened. 2012, we have Argo, which Ben Affleck won essentially every single directing award there was until he randomly got snubbed for the Oscars. I personally was rooting for him that year, so I was pissed when he did not get nominated for Best Director. Even if he ended up losing, he definitely at least should have been nominated for Best Directing, because that movie was tight as a drum all over. Then in 2018, we have Green Book. What a coincidence. Green Book also, the sequel to Driving Miss Daisy. Not really, but it's the same fucking movie, let's be honest. That also was not nominated for Best Directing, yet it somehow managed to win Best Picture. Green Book did not get nominated for directing because it is, yet again, like with Driving Miss Daisy, a very straightforward, generic way of making a movie that, I always like to say Green Book is the kind of movie that makes middle-aged white people feel good about themselves just for having seen it. They feel like they did something good. Like, oh, I did a good deed. I watched Green Book. That's what that movie is. And then the sixth and final time this happened was just last year, 2021, with Coda, which had no way in hell it was going to get nominated for Best Director, especially since the surge of popularity for that movie didn't really happen until right after nominations came out. It was a miracle it ended up winning Best Picture, sweeping all three of its awards it was nominated for, which were Adapted Screenplay, Supporting Actor, and Picture, like I said. A directing nomination was never likely to happen, because it is yet again a fairly straightforward story. No frills. Like I always say, the directing award, especially nowadays, is almost a technical achievement award more so than it is a companion to Best Picture, which is why it splits so often, which I prefer, as I've said before too. But Coda is a Best Picture that was not nominated for Best Director. Given the fact that the last three of these recent ones happened in such quick succession, proves that the preferential ballot, which has been active since 2009 yet again, has a massive impact on how Best Picture is voted on and what kinds of movies can win Best Picture, and how much more important Best Screenplay is to Best Picture than directing is nowadays, like I said. I'm excited to see where these two categories fall this year. Like I mentioned, the Adapted Screenplay category is seeming very weak this year. Pretty much all of the movies that have a really good chance of winning Best Picture this year are all original screenplays, which is kind of the way I like it. I always prefer the original ones, but depends on the movie. The front runner for Adapted Screenplay, at least so far, is Women Talking, which has been getting snubbed in many acting category across the major award shows, but it does always get in for usually Best Picture, but at least screenplay as well. And after that, the next most likely candidate, it seems like it might be The Whale, which is I personally thought was great. And then you have Glass Onion, the Knives Out sequel. There's a lot of sequels which are adapted on the, based on the original movie. So like Knives Out was original, so Glass Onion is adapted. Avatar was original, therefore Way of Water is adapted. Top Gun is original, therefore Top Gun Maverick could squeak into adapted if enough people just love that movie. And since I mentioned Top Gun, the film this year that seems the most likely to have a chance of winning Best Picture is just that movie, in my opinion, because it's a movie that everyone likes, but more importantly, nobody hates. And that's the kind of movie that wins on a preferential ballot, even though, as I said, it has a very, very slim chance of getting nominated for Best Screenplay, and even more so for Best Director. The Critics' Choice Awards had 10 Best Director nominees this year, and Joseph Kosinski couldn't even get into that field of 10, which is crazy considering that Top Gun is like an automatic Best Picture nominee, it seems like. So we'll see what happens. Could Top Gun be the next one of these movies that wins Best Picture without a writing and or directing nomination? We'll have to see. Once again, thank you for stopping by the channel. If you have not subscribed yet, please do that for me. I would love you forever. I'll give you free digital copies for life. Not really. Once again, my name is Derek, the Convicted Cinephile. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Shop, pop, movies.